Thing is apparently the original seats of the truck, and it actually currently is only bolted to the floor with a couple of bolts because I removed it to get a look at just how bad the floors are. And the floors are pretty bad. You can look down through here and actually see in this spot that one of the cab mounts actually rusted and came through the floor. That whole section of the floor is going to need to be replaced. I'd say about 70% of the floors in the truck are junk. The rocker panels on both sides, inner and outers, are going to need to go. And about the only thing that's savable really is the center section, kind of up off of the sides is fine. And the passenger side footwell needs to be replaced, but most of that sheetmetal over there isn't too bad. You can look in here and see that it's a 4-speed transmission. You see the big old industrial, old school handbrake down there that's actually attached to a big drum on the back of the transmission. That works as the, I guess, as the parking brake of the truck. And kind of old school, neat looking steel dash. No radio or anything in it at this point, and probably won't be for a while. And there's our dashboard there with our speedometer with a very optimistic 100 mile an hour speed limit on there. I don't think that it would only be something disastrous would have to happen for that thing to be pinned out at 100 miles an hour. This thing will maybe go 55 at a yell, so we won't be breaking any speed records. And over here we got windshield wipers that shockingly work. That one missing the knob's the choke, and we have the headlights on the left. And then the directionals there at old school Signal 900 or Signal Stat 900 unit clamped to the outside of the steering wheel. I don't think that was factory. I think that probably came later on. As I noted when I was driving the truck, hunting around pretty good. And this is the first time I've ever had the thing up to any speed above really first or second gear. So kind of figured that was going to be the case, but good to know that it at least operates and the brakes work good enough to haul it down. Now let's take a look under the hood. Okay, so under the hood we have the venerable GM 292 straight 6, which is rated at 175 horsepower, actually 170 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque at 1600 RPM. Interestingly enough, the base V8 for this truck was a 283 that was rated at just 5 horsepower more at 175, but the torque rating was identical, except the V8's torque peak happened at 2600 RPM, and the straight 6 happens at a lower 1600 RPM. Motor runs pretty good. I mean, it's not exactly going to pull your toupee off at any point, but it runs, it starts, it drives. And also what's interesting to note is this incredibly high-tech blow-by system that was added by somebody when they added a grommet to the outside of a valve cover, and this good-looking rubber tube here that empties down into, yes, you're seeing that correctly, a plastic milk bottle that has a bunch of oil in the bottom of it and some rags stuffed in the top. So at some point we're going to be needing to put a set of piston rings in this engine to really get it back up to snuff. But for the time being, it certainly gets the job done, and actually runs pretty good. I mean, I haven't pulled the plugs out of it to see if they're getting oil fouled or anything, but it starts, it runs, it drives, it doesn't knock, it doesn't leak, and I really can't complain too much about that, especially for the low price that I paid for the truck. Yeah, we'll get a quick tour of the exterior of the vehicle as well. So we've reported this truck as being both a 65 and a 66, and the reason for the confusion is that the guy we bought it from said it was a 66, but we found a bunch of stuff inside of it that suggests it's actually from 1965. It is a C50, so, and it has a GVW of 16,000 pounds. It sits on some big 22.5-inch style Bud wheels, same rim diameter you'd find on a tractor-trailer truck, although the bolt pattern is different. You notice 5 lug in the front. When we get around to the back, it has 10 lug wheels on it. The paint is a kind of a John Deere green that matches the John Deere yellow on the wheels, which we're going to be editing into white to match the roof, grill, and front bumper. I think it kind of looks better. The paint was applied with a brush, and you can't really tell from 20 feet, but you get up on close to it, you can see the brush strokes and everything. According to the old owner, this truck was actually a telephone company truck from California in the 1960s and was used to service telephone wires with a big man lift in the back of it. So we're hoping to take the exterior paint off and find some cool old phone company logos on the outside. Bed of the truck is actually one of the most interesting pieces of it, really. As you can tell, there are no wheel wells in it, and as you probably know by now, Chevy never made a C50 pickup truck. This was a flatbed to start with, bought as a cabin chassis, and was built at the Fremont or Oakland, California GM production plant back in the mid-60s. But the bed is actually made of 1/4-inch plate steel, welded into a box with the back open, obviously. And the sides are 1966 or 65 Chevy bed sides that are just welded to this big steel box. So from the outside, it looks much like a normal pickup bed, when in reality it's kind of like a big giant bomb-proof bunker minus a roof in there. And of course it has this massive trailer hitch on the back of it. And I'm not sure what was being towed or used with the truck when this hitch was added, but with the gearing the truck has, it will pull down a tree, which actually we're going to try to do at some point this weekend, is pull a tree over with the truck. So yeah, we're going to put it to use and use those bulldozer gears to our advantage. You can see there's no real dents. Outside of one in the rear of the bed here, there's a fairly decent-sized dent. This truck will never be a show or beauty queen. It's a big old badass truck, and that's what we plan on cruising it around as. But we are gonna try to work to clean it up just a hair, especially some of the rough spots. One of the last things we'll look at is we'll go down underneath. I'm not sure how the lighting's going to be under here, but we'll get a look at it. Big giant Eaton rear end, and of course the massive leaf springs that we have, which cause the truck to, as we found out just a few minutes ago, ride like a buckboard, but that's okay with us. It's got to be just a local cruiser and car shows and do that whole deal. We can load the kids into it and strap down the car seats, and they dig it, so it's going to be a lot of fun. The brakes, big giant drums all around, 15-inch, 5-inch wide shoes in there. And we haven't actually pulled the drums off at this point. We just replaced the brake line last weekend to get them functional again. And we're going to have to pull the drums off and do some adjustment work. The old owner had the brakes redone, he claims, and the adjustments were never done properly. So the brakes do work, but we definitely want to shore them up and make it a little more sure-footed before we decide to load the family into it and take it out for a ride. We call the truck Goliath for obvious reasons. It is a monster. As we have it sitting next to our '08 two-wheel drive F250, you can see that the mirror of the F250 comes to basically about midway up the door of the C50. So we look forward to making people in Hummer H2s think that they're in a Prius when we roll up next to them in this thing. So that's that, a pretty quick tour of our Goliath truck, and again you can see it in comparison to our F250, it makes it look like an S10. Big monster truck. We don't really know what it weighs. We actually did tow it home on a construction type trailer because it's so wide and long we couldn't really figure a car trailer that would hold it. So we borrowed a construction trailer and loaded it on there, and it is weighty. That big steel plate bed is not light. And actually one other thing to note about the bed, the reason it's even and they matched up the body lines is because the bed, we'll get a look so you can maybe see in there and note it. But the pickup bed actually is sitting on two 4x4 posts that have been laid on top of the frame. And we'll get down in there and see if you can see it with the light the way it is. The posts are laid on their side. The bed is laid on it so that the body line matches up. You can see pretty good between the cab here and the cab, and then right down onto the bed. So as of right now, Goliath is not the prettiest truck ever built, but she is certainly, or he, I should say. This ain't a she. He is certainly, as we just found out, pretty fun to drive. Turns a lot of heads, and is definitely a hit with the kiddos. So that's Goliath Installment 1. Thanks for tuning in.